Creature capture. Once a genre that dominated the front page with games like Pokemon Brick Bronze and Project Pokemon, has now been reduced to a shadow of its former glory. But why? We'll be discussing the sad state of creature capture games and how we got here. While there isn't a specific graphic I can look at, multiple somewhat credible sources from that time period suggest that Pokemon Brick Bronze at least had peaks of 20,000 players and upward. The most popular games in this space right now are Lumion Legacy, Tales of Honoria, and Doodle World, and in the past 4 years, none of them have surpassed Pokemon Brick Bronze in peak player count. So I realized something while editing. It's not really a fair argument to compare one game from the past to multiple games in the present, especially because back then there was only really one creature capture game that was popping off, so it would be a bit unjust of me to expect the same type of performance from all three of these games. It's not like an incredible argument to say that these games aren't doing well because they aren't doing as well as Pokemon Brick Bronze. This becomes even more sad when you realize that the number of available players has more than quintupled between then and now. What's more is that the number of users that show up for each subsequent update are becoming less and less, suggesting that these games are kind of dying. But this starts to make less and less sense when you take into account that these games have better graphics and quality of life than Pokemon Brick Bronze. So... creature capture games don't have infinite gameplay loops. People mainly play them to engage in the finite story. So tell me, what happens to the player count when you remove one of the only reasons why people would come back to your game? That's right, it tanks! By far the biggest offender of this is Lumion Legacy, making us wait a year and a half for half a story update. We waited from May 20th, 2022 to November 2nd, 2023 for Atlantean Part 2, which only consisted of about 2-3 hours of gameplay. Listen, Lando, we love you, you're the GOAT, but 2 years for Route 9? Seriously? I'll cut Tales of Honoria some slack because they've been working on an entire overhaul or rework of the game, which just looks like incredible, like so well made. Everything looks so polished. The new UI looks great. So many Tenorians were remodeled and have new animations and all that. They did an incredible job. It looks so good, and I cannot wait to play it. But Doodle World? Well, it actually has pretty decent upload schedules with one decently sized story update every year or so, and you thought I was gonna shit on the game, didn't you? Apart from an extreme content deficit, large gaps between updates creates a different problem. Players start to lose interest. If I can only come back to a game after a year and a half or 2 years to continue the story, then I'm going to forget about the story. I'm going to forget what my team looks like, what strategies I used to use. That's what's been happening to a ton of players. When they released, there was content back then. Things were new and exciting and all that. But after some time, after not updating for so long and not adding story content, people stop playing your game. When they come back 2 or 3 years later, they are not familiar with that team, they're not attached to that team, they forgot about the story. Like, I don't know what, you couldn't ask me what's going on in Lumion Legacy's main story. You could not. You couldn't ask me that about Tales of Honoria. I vaguely know what's going on. I have like an idea, you know, like Lumion Legacy, you collect like crystals, corrupted crystals and all that stuff. Like, I have a basic idea, right? But you know, you lose attachment in the characters. You're just not invested anymore. And that's not a good thing for a game with story-based progression. This might just be a me thing, and it's not really a problem that can be solved necessarily, but another reason why I think these games aren't doing well is because they are exhausting to learn. Whenever Pokemon comes out with a new game, its fan base is already familiar with most of their catalog, but with creature capture games on Roblox, you have to learn an entirely new roster of creatures, their abilities, type matchup, gimmicks, strategies, items. All of this can be extremely overwhelming. Unless a game of this nature brings anything new or innovative to the table, it's not gonna do well. Besides the egregious gaps between updates, Lumion Legacy developers have severe communication issues. Listen, if I'm gonna have to wait a few business years for an update, And at least give me a few updates of your progress during said business years. Even just a couple of few sneaks here and there would be reassuring, but no. Radio silence. Tales of Tenorio decided it would be a bright idea to release with a decent amount of story content and no PvP or trading. You know, the two mechanics that kept Lumion Legacy somewhat alive during its drought periods. It also just had an insanely buggy launch. Like, people were getting soft lock during cutscenes wouldn't load, you would fall through the map if you tried mounting in a building. Doodle World kind of just feels like a mobile game now, with a battle pass, daily login rewards, daily, weekly, and monthly quests, playtime rewards. Oh, and the roulette system. That's right, you can kind of just buy legendaries now. I don't know, man, it's hard to get invested in the story, which is actually pretty interesting with some pretty well written characters and comedy. When, for instance, I finish a cutscene with an elusive, all-powerful legendary doodle, and then I can just gamble for it. Alien Adventures is just a really high quality game. The animations make the creatures feel way more lively than any other creature capture game on the platform, and the trailer makes it seem like there will be a lot of content on release, as there are 3 or 4 boss fights displayed. And everything from the creature capture designs to the map to the UI just looks so polished and well made. Pocket Anime might just be the greatest thing since Brick Bronze. Yeah, I said it. The concept of this game is simple but genius. Having anime characters as the Pokemon provides an almost unlimited pool of content. And all of the praise I gave to Alien Adventures, yeah, just slap it onto this game, but like times 100. The 2 playtests they've done this year show that they have a pretty good amount of content for release. And the only way they could mess this up is by, like, I don't know, disappearing for 2 years. This game also solves the player fatigue problem I spoke about earlier, because most people are familiar with a couple of anime characters. Like, obviously Sasuke would be a fire psychic type, and obviously Gojo might be a fighting psychic type, and so on and so forth. Tales of Tenorio is doing a remake of the entire game. It looks so good. It looks so good. You should go play it. It looks so good.